It's that long-standing debate. Analog versus digital. Are you really going to burn your hands on that, Analog Kitchen? Yes, I most definitely am. These are Synth Wars, analog versus digital. Is one better for live performance than the other? Let's go find out right now. Yo, what's up, I'm Analog Kitchen, and thank you for checking out yet another video. Now, if this is your first time here, don't hesitate to click subscribe and hit that notification bell. Whenever I upload a new video, you'll be kept in the loop and you'll not miss out on anything. Stick around till the end of this video. I will tell you all who the new patrons are. Stay tuned. The debate between analog and digital sound has been going on for decades, with passionate arguments on both sides. Let's break down the key differences and why some people believe analog to be superior. Key differences are: on the analog side, there is a continuous waveform representation of the sound, prone to degradation over time due to physical wear and tear. Analog can introduce noise and crackle, and it's often associated with a warmer, more organic sound. Digital has a discrete representation of sounds as a series of numbers, which we call samples. And digital is theoretically lossless, so it allows for perfect carbon copies. Digital can be more precise and detailed, but it can also sometimes sound clinical and less natural. Now, why do certain people prefer the analog sound? Think of nostalgia and warmth. Many people associate analog formats, like vinyl, me included, to a nostalgic, romantic era of time. The perceived warmth and character of the analog sound is due to subtle harmonics and changes within the sound and can be perceived as pleasing or pleasant. There also is a perceived naturalness. Analog recordings capture the sound in a continuous way, and that can be seen a little bit more natural as opposed to the digital representation of the sound. And that can be seen as more natural than the discrete capture of digital audio. Also, there are subjective preferences. Ultimately, you can really say that the objective of analog or digital is due to people's perception. So, is one better than the other? Stay tuned. Let's go and find out if one is better than the other, shall we? Okay, I know my name is Analog Kitchen. That's also a romanticized feeling of an analog sound that I really enjoy, because it's something that I grew up with. It's something that I know, it's something that I love. And there's most often have been times where I just played a Moog synthesizer and everything rattled, and the sheer bigness of the sound really made for that oomph. It's got a character, it's got attitude, it's got a lot of pizzazz. But yeah, is that due to the fact that it's analog, or is it due to the fact that I'm telling myself this is really an original kind of sound? Now, what I'm going to do today, which is really not a fair comparison by any means, but I thought just to have a laugh, I am going to shoot out the J6 by Roland, which has got ACB, analog circuit behavior. Okay, with the Moog Minitar, which is analog, period. So let's see which one you think is pleasing. But also, I'm going to do a trick and where you have to find out which one is the analog sound. Are you ready? Let's go and do that. Quickly, let's go over what I have got right here. The Minilog XD is sitting here. Then underneath is the OB6, the Octatrack Mark II. There is an Arturia Minilab 3. There's a J6 by Roland. There is a Minitar. There's a MIDI fighter connected to the black box sitting over on this side. Then there is the RK8 by RetroKids and the RK6. This is taking care of the MIDI information in this setup. There's a mixer, the EPM8 soundtracks, and then there are two pedals that I'm using right here, the Strymon Black Sky and the Boss D7. Did I forget anything? No, I did not. There's a Zoom that's recording everything. Now, when it comes to bass lines, this thing is already running. Let's just make sure that we just put everything out. This is the main clock. So if I'm playing this, you can hear that stuff is happening. It starts with a cowbell, right? Let's get the cowbell show on the road, and let's start with a kick. Bam, 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 bam. So my drums are all here. If you follow this channel, you know exactly how I space stuff out. If not, I'll quickly go over it. So from left to right, the kick drum is here. There's a closed head, then there's a snare. That snare has been programmed to run as a drum roll, but you only hear the 5 and a 13. Bam, bam, and the rest are conditional tricks that only work if I open up the crossfader, like so. So that's self-explanatory. 4. That's a groove right here. Bam, 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 bam. Open head. At least something that acts as an open head, but I've got it fairly short, and you'll figure out why I did that in terms when I'm going to start working the bass lines. And this is a drum roll that plays every other beat. So it doesn't play now, and you'll hear it play in a while, you know? Okay, now I'm going to play both bass lines at the same time. Now, there's one bass line here, short, there's another bass line here. Now, in terms of what is analog, what's digital, you have to really strain yourself to really hear it. But with this ACB, this analog circuit behavior that Roland calls it, you can hear that it does the trick in the lower portion of the frequency spectrum. Right here, it almost convinces me, because I know what to look for. But then again, if you don't, you'll probably say like, okay, I hear that it is definitely doing some analog business, right? It's only when I open the filter that you hear that, okay, probably not. But it can hold its own. Listen to this, even if I'm going really down on the filter, if I'm closing the filter a lot, where this helicopter business starts, that's heartbeat kind of vibe, for lack of a better explanation. This I love, because this now borders on being family with the kick drum. Wow. So let's look at envelopes, right? If you were trying to determine how analog or digital stuff behaves, mostly I'm looking at how did they map it. This is different from this, right? So it's playing the exact same bass line, right? Okay, the other bass line now. So again, let's try to look for this, take off some reverb. Let's look for that helicopter kind of vibe, that heartbeat kind of vibe. I'm going to take off some low end of the kick drum. Now what you can clearly hear is that this filter will always try to do its best to just push notes through if there's a melody involved. You can, this is the melody. Da-da-dum, 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 da-da-dum. Kind of a galloping horse kind of vibe, which is nice on the kick drum. Okay, and now I'm trying to just take out the musical information, but keep a bit of that pulsating content for the subwoofer. I'm trying to keep that. So let's lower the filter and shorten the envelope. There you go. Now it starts to sound more and more like a drum, right? There, you got your drum going. Mind you, it is a little bit inaudible. And the trick also, to emphasize a little bit what's going on, is opening up the resonance considerably. It almost starts to act like a snare drum. Do you hear it? I'm going to exaggerate the volume here, right? You can see it, I'm already straining and stressing the EPM 8, but come on, you can handle it, don't worry about it. So, yeah, let's see how this works with the kick. And the other one. back and back. These are mutes, by the way. So what I've done, with I mean Grit Retro Kids came by and he said, you know what, Lucian, let me just map stuff out for you. So he's made it so that these 8 buttons here correspond with the 8 tracks that the RK8 has. So these are now mutes. I can even go down on the octaves, and when I get to a certain a low octave that I not oftenly use, so this obviously is going to be extended, you know. And then the last one, I can also add in arpeggiation, because there's an arpeggiator in here as well, but there's so many things that this thing can do on a side note. But so then, you know, so these mutes means that on track 1 and track 8, track 1 and track 8, I've got the bass line. Another one. Now, funny enough, this in my mind would be a characteristic that I would easily pinpoint towards the J6, but it is nice. If there was a noise oscillator involved, which is not, I could open that up and even make a hi-hat, but that's not over here. So let's go for a snare drum. Nice. So you see that there's a lot that you can do. In terms of comparing the two, it's really not an honest comparison because there's much more that I can do in terms of sound design on the panel here, and even more if I connect this to my computer than there is looking at this machine. Then again though, if I was to join them up and layer them together, it becomes very interesting, right? So if I'm going to shorten the envelope even more on a Minitar, opening up the reso to quarter pass, that's a lot. And opening it up, now you really get this, I don't know, wooden sound almost, as if I'm knocking. And this could be an excellent attack for this lower bass. That's audible here, but if I even lower the filter, it will become more and more inaudible because the envelope's already down. I can't go any more, I can't close it up more. See, that's almost gone. So these filters do different things. Rule of thumb, try and figure out what the envelopes and what your filters are doing so you know how to work your synthesizers, because the XD's got its own character opening up a filter, as is the OB6 opening up the filters, got its own sort of like a thing what happens. There are sweet spots throughout the travel of the filter. Also the resonance will play an intricate part in how it sounds, but this is when you're performing live very interesting, because on the sound design part you get to just do different things. Like this obviously is just a hypnotizing kind of vibe with this thing. Let's with this bass line here, let's look at the J6 envelope generation. That I've got a funny cool knob sitting right here on the filter envelopes here, is embedded on this machine. So the digital workings inside here are thinking of how that works. Opening it up, you'll hear also that the notes will extend. So now they're already starting to overlap on 12 o'clock. But listen what happens if I open it up more. Now it's almost legato. I can't really hear the attack anymore. And here you can hear that. So let's add this into this and make it so that they're both joining together. Now you can clearly hear that tick tick tick, that higher sort of like sound coming from the Minitar, but I would like to embed it in here. So instead of just turning down the filter, I'll probably just take off some reso. Do you hear it? This is a nice bass line. So why am I doing this? Because otherwise I have to turn stuff up here. And turning stuff up in a live set means other things need to be put up, and by the end of the day everything is just like blinking red, and then there's no turning back. So there's no going back on that. So I'm trying to just like stay with my kick. My kick drum is always going to be my rule of thumb. Like this needs to just like be that specific level. And then I'll probably turn down the synths here. Now how does that work? Listening to the J6, now you can get away with, oh, it sounds analog, wow. You can really hear it's analog. That's what people say when they hear this type of muffled down filter sound. So I'm always trying to look for, what do I know of an analog envelope, of an analog synthesizer, like the OB6, like the Korg Mini Log, and likes the Minitar. I love these different parts because they all do different things. Oberheim is different from Korg. Korg is different from Moog, and Moog is different from Roland, obviously. So you got all different tastes here. Now let's open this up. Leave this clicky bit. Let's see what we can do when we look at the envelope here. This starts to sound a little bit more like a bass player. I'm missing the finger action though. If you can envision a bass guitar playing this. Okay, let's put a hi-hat in there. And that's why you need a little bit of attack on the other sound. So I'm going to add this tick in there. 2, 3, go. There you go. Let's open up the release a little bit because it's not very clear to hear. You hear it? That higher sound. This one. Now I'm going to lower the filter. Now I'm going to lower the reso. There you go. Now we got a concise bass line consisting of 2 layers. So this is analog and digital. Okay, if I was to just focus on one bass line and one bass line alone, say I've got this machine and not this machine, I will turn it off and let's go. This is inaudible to me, you know? I have to. I'm forced to open the filter up a little bit more. And sometimes I think that in the analog modeling, in the digital modeling of an analog synth, sometimes concessions are made. It doesn't really always do what an analog synthesizer does. So I'm not stressing what is better. I'm saying that in terms of the versatility of the machines, sometimes I think an analog machine, look at the OB6 for instance, it just does a lot of stuff. Now you get to say, okay, this is a $25 or $27,500 machine as opposed to this, which is going to cost you maybe $180. But still, in terms of sound, if you were to close your eyes and I was to try my magic, then obviously you wouldn't really hear a difference when it came to sound and sound alone. But I would love a little bit more trickery. Now, sometimes it's easy to get to a place fast. So let's make this into a more punchy type bass line. So I'm opening up the filter, not completely, because there is an envelope on it, as you can hear, which is something I would do with the filter envelope here on a Minitar, but that's already embedded here. So the opening up the filter and the envelope, they play an intricate part on getting the sound to really sit where it sits. So you have to be careful. A lot of people just open it up and give it a big swing and hope that everything works, but you know, you have to be subtle with these things, otherwise it doesn't work. Now, why does this work? Because I already made sure that my drums are working. You know, everything is balanced. I think that works well, right? Hat. And now you understand why this hat is so short. because you need a contrast to what is happening with your bass line, bass notes. Let's try that other bass line here. And if you're really listening to this stuff on decent headphones or decent speakers, it almost feels as if this is out of tune. But if you lower the filter, it appears that this is going to be lower. Oh, sorry. There's animals in the studio in the form of a frog in my throat. But yeah. Okay. Let's do the switch again. Back to the Minitar. I think that this leans a little bit closer into the closed head, the Minitar, as the J6 does. But the J6 gives me a little bit more of that analog, sort of like almost acid kind of vibe, right? Switch. I keep going back and forth, so you get to decide which ones you prefer. Which ones do you prefer? Let me know in the comment section, you know? All right, let's switch it up. 2, 3, and. Taking out a little bit of the reso. And opening up the filter. Now, one thing we didn't touch upon is effects. They do a world of difference. When I'm trying to determine if two synths can actually work together, and this being the more expensive synth, you know that there's more possibilities here. You see it with the knobs, obviously, that there's more that you can do with this than what you can do with that. Well, not really, but you have to really be fiddly with these small knobs, but it does the trick. Anyway, now if I was going to start to add some sound to it, I'm thinking maybe delay. Let's take out the high frequencies here and take a little bit of low end on the kick so we can really focus on this bass line. I'm going to enter in a little bit more delay. This is a short delay. I don't want to wash it out, because if I'm starting to really overlap what the notes are playing, this without it, this with it, you can hear a little bit of a slap in the right side of your headphones. Let me exaggerate it. And you know what the hell, let's just also add a little bit of reverb in there. You hear it? Let's take out the delay. Exaggerate the reverb. It's on the mod section on the mode, moderate, and it's on the spring verb. I can put a room in there. But things accumulate pretty fast, you know what I'm saying? So I'm going for the spring, which is a little bit higher, meaning not much low end is in there, and that's easier to eat up a little bit of that delay. And it's all to do with layering, right? So, okay, so now we hear this sound, we hear the delay, and we hear the reverb. And it's all nicely spaced out, right? Let's add this machine. This is nicely sitting atop the Minitar. I can even turn down the volume a little bit so that it sounds more and more like one machine. Let's take out the mini guitar and focus on this machine, because this has got the same thing. It's got delay and it's got reverb. And I don't really think that the reverb is too bad, but everything in moderation, you know. This is ridiculous, in my honest opinion. But this could work. You hear it, right? Nice. Delay. I'm very careful with the delay, and I don't know how this routing is. Is it going to go out parallel, or is one routed into one another? I just don't know. So with this, I can say, okay, I want the mini guitar to go into the delay first, which is preferable, and then go out of the delay into the black sky, limited edition. And then even this thing is always going to be stereo, because it's a stereo output, right? The J6. The mini guitar, however, is a mono machine, so there's only one output coming, dead center coming out of the middle. So it means one audio cable goes out into the input, the left input of the DD7, because mono, like guitars, obviously been designed to work on guitars, and the guitars are always mono. So there's one cable going into the mono input. You can use stereo content, which is cool, you can put it on synth, but I'm using input A, and then it's going to be spitting out stereo sound, or also mono if you're using the left out, but I'm using the left and right out, or output A and B in this case, and I'm going to stereo into the reverb, because reverbs, you'd love to have them stereo, obviously. I could do the same trick here, but I've got left and right going in and the left and right going out, so that means that my mini guitar now is not coming out of one channel, but coming out of two channels. Yeah, this would be mono, which is a shame. And then here you go, so stereo, right? Full spread. A little bit too much of the reverb. I'll do that on this machine. A little bit too much on the delay. Cool, kick in. Oh, sweet, I'm loving that. So I'm loving the character here, you know, I'm loving the character. It has got an attitude, it has got a little bit of pizzazz, a little bit of oomph, which is what I like. Now let's add the J6. And take off a little bit of that reverb, because I don't want this reverb to overpower this other reverb, because this being digital, this being analog, obviously, yeah, you'll hear it, right? So this gels together nicely. Now, are they joined at the hip, married at the hip? No, because opening up this filter keeps things cool, I'd say. Listen to the delay. Nice. But listen to when I open this up. I think this sounds a little bit narrower. It's a little bit smaller for sake of a better explanation. Okay, one thing I didn't do is play an extra sound here. And what did I just do? Let's lower it again. This is what I love for my live set sound. The best of both worlds. This, I don't really like that it does that squelchy thing, but when I play it together with the minitar, with a little bit of that delay going, listen. That's exaggerated. Here. Here. Bam, 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 da-dum, bam, bam, bam. So now I get to play that stuff live. I can even record that in if I wanted to, but you know, I don't want to tamper with the tracks that I have. And then I've got something of a decoy that plays over the top so that it makes my track a little bit more interesting. What are we missing? Cowbell, 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 cowbell. Here we go. Ooh, nice. Very static. Let's add a little bit of life to it. So we go for the digital with the analog, right? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. And back, 1, 2. Well, there you go. And this is definitely a way of looking at how can we metabolize this stuff? How can we make it work? Yeah. Well, let me know in the comment section if this is something that tickles your fancy. Not really trying to just say like one is better than the other. That would be an easy sort of like clickbaity kind of vibe. That's not what I wanted. Because I was also under the impression that analog sound is better sound, blah, blah, blah. But in today's age, I have to just really think on, is that really true? You know what I mean? Let me know your idea. Do you prefer analog? Do you prefer digital? Do you think that there's a difference? I've tried to explain that it's all, you know, your own interpretation. Anyway, yeah. And I'd like to add, try to do this on a DAW. This, add it here. You'll be programming it for a while. It's cool to do stuff live, right? Okay, well there you go. Okay, 1, 2, different bass line. Here we go. Nice. Back to my stationary bass line. Different tracks. So one plays the whole melody, and one plays the steady bass line, the hypnotizing bass line. Drum roll, let's switch again. There you go. Is one really better than the other? The fact of the matter is, the truth is, neither is inherently better than the other, really. The quality of the recording, the quality of the playback equipment, and also your listening environment play a big role in how you perceive sound, and also in the perceived sound quality. Modern digital playback systems have now exceeded whatever is possible. It's so high res that you really can't say this one is better than the other. Analog is better than digital. And lastly, there's also the role of perception, as the brain plays a crucial role in how we perceive sound. Our expectations, biases, and past experiences really can alter our sense of judgment. And then of course there's the placebo effect, meaning that believing that one format is better than the other actually makes it real in your mind, but measuring the stuff, it really doesn't matter. So in conclusion, while analog recordings can have a unique and nostalgic listening experience, modern digital technology has the ability to deliver a high fidelity sound that far surpasses any analog sound at the moment, to be fairly honest. The best format for you ultimately relies on your interpretation of what you feel works for you. Could be digital, it could be analog. That's what it is. That brings me to these month's patrons. Matthew Harris, Steel Toe Boots, Deep Down and Dirty. Welcome. I've done a remix for the guys over at Deep Down and Dirty. That was absolutely awesome. So cool to see you guys on the channel. Stefan, Kiyoshi the Epic, the Weird and the Wonderful. Welcome. Paul P and Hans Jerry. They all follow it on patreon.com/NLoCitchen, where the congregation congregates. We all talk shop. We do that after this video. There's a video chat, so if you are watching the premiere, thanks for watching. It's really cool, so hop over to Patreon, you won't be breaking the bank, and then find your way into Discord. I know that the people at Patreon are really doing their best to up the platform, and it's looking more and more interesting, but the more interactive kind of flow in order to do video chats, in order to share your music, in order to listen to each other's demos and just talk shop, I think it's Discord. So my Discord, you get access through the slightly upper tiers over at my patreon.com page, patreon.com/NLoCitchen. Now, if you made it this far into the video, you, sir, remember, an absolute superstar. Thank you for watching. I'm NLoCitchen. Next week I'm going to be back with another video. So if not anything else, stay analog or digital, and I'll catch you on the rebound. Peace. I'm out.